Hello and welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel, whichever one applies to you. My name is Kai, and today we're talking about sexuality a little bit. I say sexuality, but it's more like I don't know, because sexuality implies like sexual urges, which I don't think is necessarily relevant to this topic that I want to talk about. But basically, um, as you've seen in the title, I don't think, and there's going to be some nuance in this, obviously, um, but I don't think that there is necessarily a single man in this world that is completely straight. I mean, I could be wrong on that, and this is completely my opinion. I want to start this off by saying that this is my opinion, uh, based on observations I've made. I am a bi man. I discovered I was bi when I was 13, and then came out when I was 15, like fully came out. Um, and before I came out, which I did after I moved to a bigger town I was less likely to get my ass beat by people who knew here in Texas. When I kept it to myself because I was here in my hometown, which is very small, very rural, very, very homophobic in general, especially amongst other guys. So I didn't want to get jumped simply because I liked both men and women. But that let me be able to see, like, firsthand how all of the, like, quote unquote straight guys in my school interacted with each other, and I've seen the dynamics between, like, men who consider themselves completely straight over the years, because I don't seem bi until I start talking about things that are related to sexuality. So, like, the attractiveness of certain guys and uh, my ex-boyfriend and stuff like that. So, uh, I'm not a very, like, bi or gay presenting queer person. And while getting to see these interactions over these however many years, I've noticed that, and I've also been in groups of friends where basically everyone in the friend group was some flavor of queer, like gay, lesbian, bi, pansexual, transgender, whatever, the whole fucking rainbow, basically. I've had friend groups that everyone was basically some part of the rainbow. And I've noticed that there are certain ways that straight guys interact with each other in their friend groups that, like, wasn't really present all the time in the queer friend groups that I was in. So, like, one of the things I think that platonic flirting, especially within friend groups, is a very common thing. I think it, especially in younger folks, because it's just like, one, it's an easy way to like practice your flirting skills. It's also an easy way to like have fun social interactions that you can write off as not meaning anything, because they're just, it's just interacting just to interact and have fun. It's generally, it's not like you're flirting with this person because you want something to come from it, which is how usually romantic flirting is. And I think that it's just like, I don't know, I feel like it fosters a deeper connection. So even in my queer friend groups that I've been in, they like, we all flirted with each other, but generally it's so wild to me now to even think about it, because like, we when we would flirt with each other, there was always an underlying tone of like romantic interest or sexual interest in some way. Um, and like, it was like a half joke, kind of like, we were like, oh my God, yeah, like you just look so great today. Like, I would just gobble you up, and we play it off as like a half joke, but like kind of mean it at the same time, because damn, if I could, I would, that kind of thing. And with straight friend groups, I sometimes see that level of flirting as well, but it's not always like that. Like, I often see the regular like platonic flirting and stuff, but the fact that it's there in the first place makes me feel like there's something there being expressed that they don't feel comfortable just fully going for it. So they have to make it seem like it's a platonic thing, because they don't want to be ridiculed or like essentially exiled from the friend group, because they really enjoy being around their friends and sharing these interests and stuff. But like, this is one of those topics that I sometimes have a really hard time expressing verbally, because the concepts in my head make so much sense, but I struggle to translate them into words, um, just because of how abstract the concepts can be. So like, there's the more commonly known like things like gotta kiss the homies goodnight. It's not gay if your socks are on. Like, I would blow my buddy for $10 because he's my guy, and if he's not getting it, someone needs to give it to him. Like stuff like that. But and then it's whenever you point it out, even if you're not trying to be malicious in any way, like if you're teasing or just like being like, hey, as like a queer person, I feel like there's something else going on with that you might want to explore at some point. If you do, let me know, and I can kind of support you while you do that. And it's always the response of, well, I'm very comfortable in my sexuality as a straight man that I can say these things and not mean them. And I'm like, okay, sure, but like, I've seen dudes get drunk as fuck and then make out with other dudes. And then they're like, well, that was just a one-time thing and it was because I was drunk. But I feel like it's pretty widely understood at this point that alcohol doesn't always make you do, like, alcohol doesn't typically make you do things that you're not thinking about doing in some way before. You know, like, there's the stories of, like, one guy gets drunk as shit, and then goes and, like, assaults a woman, and then another guy who's at the same party drank the same amount of stuff, and both of these guys have girlfriends. The other guy gets drunk as fuck, goes home to his girlfriend, and just, like, passes out in bed with her after telling her that he loves her and how much she means to him, and, you know, a super sweet guy. Alcohol really just lowers your inhibitions to the point where you're more comfortable doing things that you normally wouldn't do because you no longer are considering the consequences. That's why the 3 a.m. drunk text to your ex are such a prevalent thing, because normally you understand nothing good typically is going to come from that. You guys split up for a good reason, and all you're going to do is really embarrass yourself at the end of the day. Like, 9 times out of 10, maybe 9.5 times out of 10, drunk texting your ex at 3 a.m. is not going to go well. So I don't think that's a good excuse either. I just think that people, and I'm saying this with guys because it's more common to write, like, this kind of interactions with guys off as being comfortable in their sexuality to do these things or being drunk. But with women, like, it seems to be typically very accepted that most women at some point in their lives are going to make out with another woman, try sexual stuff with another woman, regardless of if they're inebriated or not, and that it's natural and okay. So that, I don't think, even really needs to be spoken on too much. If it does, I can and will. Like, if people think that needs to really be talked about, I will talk about it. Because I do have some observations and opinions about it that are very similar to what I'm talking about with men. But I don't think it really needs to be talked about. I think it's pretty common already and pretty accepted that is a thing that happens. And it's just really men that I've seen that this subject is written off and kind like a semi-taboo in a way to talk about with other men. But I feel like if there were truly straight men, and honestly, I do think, now that I'm talking about it, and I was thinking about this a little bit as I was kind of trying to gather my thoughts before I started recording, I do think that there are some actually fully straight men, maybe. I mean, it's hard to know if they're just holding back from engaging in this type of interaction and connection because they're worried about optics, or like having having cognitive dissonance develop because of it. But I have seen men who, like, have no issue with their other guy friends doing it, have no issue with them interacting with that guy like that, but they don't ever reciprocate the energy. And they're not homophobic. Like, for sure they're not homophobic, because you can, like, I used to know this one guy who was like this, and, like, 2 guys made out right by him one time. And he just kind of like looked at it and he was like, oh, cool, whatever. And went back to whatever conversation he was having. Like, it was no big deal to him. So it's not that they're homophobic either. I just don't think either that, like, I think that they either are fully straight to the point where they don't feel the need to engage in any of that behavior because it does nothing for them in any way, or they're just not comfortable engaging in it because they know it will bring about, like, subconsciously they know it will bring about cognitive dissonance with who they think they are. So I'll say, since I don't know for sure, I'll say that as of right now, my opinion is that 99% of men are not actually straight. They may not be fully gay or bi or anything, but I do think that somewhere in there is part of them that is attracted to other men. Because if there wasn't, I don't think they would ever be able to fully feel comfortable engaging in flirtatious behavior with their friends. Like, saying it is one thing, but like kissing the homies goodnight, I know it's like not generally something that like guys actually do. Like, it's just a thing they say, especially online. But I do know guys who would do it, like, or I have known guys who would do it, like, and they claim they're straight. And I don't know, it's just, it feels like there's something more there that they're not willing to look at. You know, and it's not like I just said a minute ago, like, it doesn't have to be that, oh, you're not completely straight, so you're bi or you're gay, like you'll go and have sex with a man. Like, no, like, you can feel and like notice in yourself a physical attraction to other men, especially your friends, because you're around them so often. Like, it's just a natural thing when you're around people who are not blood related to you for long enough that you start to find them somewhat attractive. Like, that's a biological response in humans. But you don't feel the need to really fully act on that. But the fact that you feel like even making those sorts of jokes or statements about your male friends, I think indicates that there is a little bit of something there, you know? And if you don't want to explore it, or if you don't feel the need to act on that, that's fine. You don't have to. No one's saying you have to. No one's even saying that you have to accept it or explore it or do anything with it. Just that it seems to be there for the vast majority of men that I have seen, been friends with, interacted with, like, observed. And if you don't want to do anything with that information, you don't have to. You can fucking keep doing exactly what you've been doing. Keep living your life the exact same way you've been living it. Forget all about this. Doesn't fucking matter at all. It has no real consequences, I think, if you just ignore this. None at all. I think if you do feel like exploring it or looking at it or even acknowledging that it could be a possibility, that you should. Because if something inside of you is telling you, hey, I have these tendencies, I have these, like, thoughts and feelings, that I feel like I maybe should explore at some point, then that's like your mind's way of telling you, hey, there's something more here that is going to keep bugging you until you look at it. At least look at it. Like, you may not even need to accept it, but I do think that if something in you is telling you to look deeper, that you should, because it's telling you that for a reason. The mind doesn't do anything. Reevaluating the statement I was about to make. Give me a second. Yeah, okay. I don't think this statement will be problematic. As far as I know, I'll preface it with that. Hold on. So I'll preface this statement with saying, as far as I know, from everything I've learned about psychology and the mind doesn't do anything without a reason. Even if you don't understand what the reason is, or can't see what could have brought that reason in for the mind doing a certain thing, the mind generally doesn't do anything without a reason. Especially when it involves the ego. Like, everything that involves the ego is very, very intentional in the mind. Even if it's subconsciously done. Super intentional. Super, super intentional. Because it has to be. Because the ego is like your sense of self. It can be very fragile. It can be... damage to the ego can result in actual physiological responses. It can be a really bad time if the wrong thing happens with the ego. And the ego wants to preserve its current state as much as possible. So everything it does and the mind does in regards to the ego is very intentional. But yeah, I think 99% of all men are not completely straight. Whether they're 99.5% straight, 90% straight, so on and so forth. I don't think there's really... I don't think too many men are actually fully 100% straight. That's it for this video. Not a very long video. Didn't really have much to say here. There's a lot more concepts related to this in my mind that I just cannot get to translate into language that I can like vocalize. So I'm not even gonna bother trying. I just wanted to get my thoughts out on this because I've talked about it before, and some people agree and some people disagree. And I always find it very interesting, the perspectives that come with that agreement or disagreement. I'm also about to record another video about a different topic, one that is a bit more personal to me. And so I'm going to upload both of these videos at the same time once they're done. And then I think here in the next day or two, I'm going to try to record the next memory catalog video. So look forward to that. Have an easier day, and I will see you later.